Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm so glad you are here today because we need to have a serious conversation about what's actually happening in the real estate market right now. If you've been scrolling through Zillow or driving around your neighborhood, you might have noticed something weird. You see a for sale sign go up, it sits there for a few months, maybe you see a price cut, and then suddenly the sign is gone. But the moving truck never showed up. The family is still there. This is a trend called delisting, and it's happening more often than we've seen in a very long time. Today, I want to dedicate this entire video to explaining why this is happening, why it matters to you, whether you're buying or selling, and most importantly, how to make sure you don't become one of those statistics. Because let's be honest, nobody puts their house on the market just for fun. It's stressful, it's intrusive, and it's a lot of work. So if you're going to do it, you want to cross the finish line. Let's start by breaking down exactly why we're seeing so many homes getting pulled off the market. It really comes down to a standoff. Imagine a game of tug of war. On one side, you have sellers. Many of you who own homes right now are in a really strong position. You'll probably have a ton of equity built up over the last few years. Maybe you have a mortgage rate that is super low. You don't have to sell. You want to sell. Maybe you want to downsize or move closer to grandkids, but you aren't desperate. So the mindset is, I'll list it for this high price, and if I get it, great. If not, I'm staying put. On the other side of the road, you have buyers. Buyers are dealing with high interest rates, high insurance costs, and just the general cost of living. They literally cannot stretch their budget any further. They aren't being stingy, they are maxed out. So when they see a house that looks overpriced, they don't even bother making a lowball offer. They just keep scrolling. This creates a gap where the seller is waiting for a number that the buyer simply cannot give. The result? The house sits and sits. And eventually, the seller gets frustrated or offended that nobody sees the value of their home and they take it off the market. That is a delisting. And while it might seem harmless to just test the market, it actually hurts you. If you delist and try to come back in 6 months, agents and buyers can see that history. They wonder, what was wrong with this house? It loses that fresh new listing sparkle. So how do we avoid this? The first and biggest piece of the puzzle is pricing. I cannot stress this enough. I know it's tempting to price your home high. We all think our home is the best one on the block. You might think, well, I can always lower the price later if nobody offers. I need you to understand why this strategy is actually dangerous in this specific market. There is something in real estate we call the golden window. It's those first 2 weeks when your house hits the market. That is when you have the most eyeballs on your listing. The portal sent out alerts to everyone. The neighbors are curious, and serious buyers are excited to see something new. If you overprice during that window, you waste your best chance. You scare off the serious people. By the time you decide to drop the price 3 weeks later, that excitement is gone. You're now stale. Buyers start wondering, why has nobody bought this yet? Is there something wrong with the roof? Is the foundation bad? You essentially lose your leverage. Instead of testing the market with a high price, the smarter play right now is to price it exactly where the data says it should be, or even just a hair under. It sounds counterintuitive to price lower to get more money, but here is how it works. If you price it fairly, you get more people through the door. If you get 3 people who fall in love with the house, now you have competition. Competition drives the prices up. But if you price it too high, you get 0 people. And you can't negotiate with a ghost. Now, let's move on to the second major reason homes aren't selling: condition. We are seeing a shift in buyer psychology. A few years ago, buyers would take anything. They would waive inspections. They would buy a house that needed a new kitchen. It didn't matter. They just wanted a house. But that is not what the world we live in today. Because affordability is so tight, buyers don't have extra cash lying around for renovations. They are using all their savings just for the down payment and closing costs. When they walk into a house and see that it needs new carpets, or the walls are a weird color that needs painting, or the deck is rotting, they see dollar signs. They see money they don't have. So if you want to preserve your home from languishing on the market, you have to do the prep work before you list. This is what we call the HGTV effect. Buyers expect homes to look like they do on TV. I'm not saying you need to do a $50,000 remodel. In fact, usually big remodels don't give you a full return on investment. I'm talking about the small, strategic things. First, deep clean. And I mean deep clean. The baseboards, the windows, the grout. A clean house tells a buyer that the home has been well maintained. If the house is dirty, they assume the furnace hasn't been serviced and the pipes are clogged. It's a psychological leap they make. Second, deal with the honey-do list. You know, that doorknob that jiggles, tighten it. That screen door that squeaks, oil it. These little friction points annoy buyers. You want them to walk through the house and focus on how big the living room is, not on the fact that the closet door is off its track. Another strategy that is working wonders right now, and this is a bit of a pro tip, is getting a pre-listing inspection. Usually the buyer pays for an inspection after they make an offer. But if you pay for one before you even list, you can find out all the hidden issues. Maybe there's a small leak under the sink you didn't know about. Fix it now. Then, when a buyer comes in, you can show them the report and say, look, we checked everything. We fixed these 3 things and the house is solid. That builds so much trust. It removes the fear for the buyer. And fear is the number one thing that kills deals. Let's switch gears and talk about what happens when you actually get an offer. This is the third pillar of avoiding a delisting: negotiation. I mentioned earlier that a lot of sellers have pride about their price. I get it. It's your home. But you have to treat this like a business transaction. If you get an offer that is a little lower than you wanted, don't just reject it outright. Don't get insulted. Work with it. Right now, we're seeing a lot of creative deal making. For example, instead of lowering your price by $10,000, maybe you offer to pay $10,000 towards the buyer's closing costs. For you, then that money is the same, right? But for the buyer, that $10,000 in cash might be the difference between being able to afford the loan or not. It effectively buys down their interest rate. This is a win-win. You get your house sold, they get a monthly payment they can afford. The agents who are getting deals done right now are the ones who are preparing their sellers for this give and take. If you go into this with the take it or leave it attitude, you're probably going to end up keeping the house. You have to be willing to keep the conversation alive. Now, I want to address the elephant in the room. What if you do all of this, you price it right, you fix it up, and it still doesn't sell? This brings us to the plan B that a lot of sellers are choosing: renting it out. A lot of the delisted homes are turning into rentals. If you have a low mortgage rate, you might be able to rent the house out and cover your costs, maybe even make a little profit. This is a valid option, but please be careful. Being a landlord is a job. It's not passive income. You have to deal with tenants, repairs at 2 a.m., and potential vacancies. If you are moving out of state, managing a property from afar is tough. However, for some of you, waiting a year or two might make sense. If you don't need the equity right now, renting can be a way to ride out this market dip. Just make sure you run the numbers. Don't just guess what the rent will be. Look at actual rental comps in your neighborhood. So, let's bring this all together. The headlines are scary. They talk about record numbers of canceled listings and a stalling market. But remember, headlines are designed to get clicks. The reality on the ground is that homes are selling. They are selling every single day. The ones that are selling are simply the ones that are living in reality. They are priced based on the market we have today, not the market we had 2 years ago. They look good, smell good, and feel well cared for. And the sellers are working with the buyers to find solutions to the affordability problem. If you're thinking about selling in the next 6 months, my advice is to start watching the market now. Look at what stays on the market in your neighborhood and what sells fast. You'll start to see the patterns I'm talking about. And when you are ready, let's sit down and make a plan that includes the right price, the right prep work, and the right mindset. That is how we keep your sign in the yard until it says sold, rather than pulling it down in frustration. I hope this deep dive gave you a better perspective on what's happening behind the scenes. It's a tricky market, but it's definitely navigable if you have the right map. If you have questions about your specific house or what your local numbers look like, drop a comment below. I love reading them. Thanks for sticking with me for this longer video. I really think these details matter. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you found this helpful. I'll see you in the next one.